Today, in this deeply grounding conversation with Dr. Charisse Drakeford, Charisse R. Drakeford, who is an author, a public speaker, and a caregiver. And she's also a recipient of the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Awards. She's going to join us, and she joins us on the SelfSeed Podcast for the first time to explore the spiritual foundation of leadership. And today, we're going to talk about her book, Who Are You Listening To? And through this book, Dr. Charisse just challenges us to identify the voices that shape our thinking, our faith, and even our leadership. So with wisdom from scripture and her own life experience, I believe that she's going to remind us that surrendering to God is the key of true influence. So if you're new to the podcast, remember that the SelfSeed Podcast is available on all major platforms anywhere. You can just search for the SelfSeed Podcast on Google, Spotify, YouTube, Rifali for East Africa, and so many more good pods, AfriPods. I don't know, you name it, the platform. And yeah, remember to subscribe so that this episode reaches more audience, so that it reaches more the intended group of people. It's just like you and me, the learners, people who like to learn and to improve themselves professionally and personally. So join us with Dr. Charisse Drakeford. Come on in. You can begin to introduce yourself, since it's the easier way to usually make a guest feel comfortable on the podcast.
Okay.
Because I might have introduced you on the opening of the podcast, but still, you have an opportunity to.
Well, I am Dr. Charisse Drakeford, and I am an entrepreneur, speaker, trainer, and author. Also, I am a caregiver, and my caregiving, what I do is I encourage other caregivers spiritually and also emotionally with ups and downs of being a caregiver for their loved one. And I also provide resources and scriptures also to help them. I'm also an international speaker, as well as a 2025 Lifetime Presidential Achievement Award from President Biden. I do a lot. Besides that, in ministry as well, Mount Olive Baptist Church, where I am on the ministerial staff there. And also I'm with Black Women Who Want More, and I am one of the members of that organization, amongst other organizations I've been in over the years. And that's all that I do in a nutshell.
That's a rich background. That's a rich personality or persona. Like your CV is heavy. Yeah, it's heavy even for me. So yeah,
yes.
I'm delighted to have you on the podcast. And with all these many titles, an author, a teacher, an entrepreneur, a speaker, a caregiver, and even a nominee, a winner of the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. I hope that's the right title.
Yes.
I'm curious to know which part of your journey actually just ignited your calling to leadership, because it seems like in all these areas, you are dedicated to the leadership area.
Yes. Actually, to be honest, I started when I was 10 and 4 years old. I wanted to be a teacher. I taught in children's church at that time, and I was assisting Sunday school teachers. And from then I grew more into my leadership role into different areas in the church. And from there, I went to school. After high school, I decided to make a shift and wanted to do accounting. So I got my degree in accounting. That didn't work out for me. I said, nope, numbers wasn't for me. So I went to the business part. And from business, I was supervisor in the payroll department. So I did a lot of different things. And went from there, back into education. So I got my master's in education, and then things just started rocketing. Then got my doctorate in education as well as in leadership and professional practice. So it was a rolling thing. And over the years, I've had different leadership roles on my job in church and also in organizations. One organization when I lived in Qingdao, China, I was on the board for the Qingdao Foundation for Charities.
Yeah.
Also, I was also a women's Democrat chairperson. So I was over Shanghai, Beijing, and Qingdao for the Women Caucus. So some of the titles that I've held in the past. Right now, I'm on the ministerial staff at church, and that's really that amongst the SEIU, the International Union for Caregivers, and also it's for different capacities of union. SEIU is worldwide. And so I train, I'm a steward right now that is voice training leader in that position as well, to help other caregivers and to just make our voice known for raises and also for better care and so forth. So that's really how all my leadership just kind of connect together in one.
And I love that your leadership spark started as a kid at 10 years old, and it has since then been increasing or branching out to different areas, and you're still making the impact. That's what I love on the podcast.
Thank you.
So also on your now this leadership charisma that you have put it into something tangible for everybody to try and pick your mind on this leadership area. And I'm curious on this book, that who are you listening to, the title, you speak something about you speak something powerful, and you're talking about leadership begins with the voices we allow into our spirits. Now, as
Correct.
a believer, I like the way you're able to correlate this, the aspect of leadership without removing it as, oh, this doesn't belong. Since I'm a Christian, then I don't have to I don't see any principles, but actually the Bible has everything. And
That's
so
true.
I'm curious to know what actually inspired you to write this book.
Well, thank you, Emmanuel. Listening to God is the first thing. Listening to him for his voice. And it took a while for me to listen for the voice and learn in scriptures and just reading. And even though I've been raised in the church, but then I had to find God for myself in a personal relationship. So I believe, and I honestly know that if you have a closer relationship with God and you delve deeper into the word, then you will get closer to God and you can hear his voice on several situations. And leadership is not just biblically getting close, which is the foundation. However, you can lead in your job. You can lead from McDonald's. You can lead from wherever. It's leadership.
Yeah,
but
it happens
you got to have
everywhere.
a foundation. You got to have someone there to guide you. And just because you want to get the edge up in the company, you have to follow the right leadership. So leadership really requires to be a good follower. And that's what the disciples were. They was good followers in order to be good leaders going out. So to carry on the mission that Jesus have there. And so I was raised in my family is that when you walk out that door, you represent me. So my parents said, Drakeford, I represent Drakeford. So therefore I had to represent. So that's the same thing as Jesus said. When you go out amongst your people, you have to represent the God that you serve.
Yep. We are carrying the
So that's leadership right there. Leadership really starts at home and it starts with the base. So if you have good leadership and been around good leadership, then you understand how to elevate, and as God continues to elevate you, and how you can level up in your workplace or wherever, in the church or wherever it may be. So it really starts from the ground, from home. And some people don't have a home background, so that's okay. But there are so many leaders and so many people out there that's nurturing people to be good leaders. Some are born leaders and some are nurtured to be leaders. So it's a two-way situation. But if you've been under the wrong leadership for a long time, you know when it's good leadership and you know when to listen to.
I like that, because I even recall when I did a podcast with one of my friends and we were talking about leadership, and we touched we touched base on that aspect of leadership and discipleship. These are coherent. You cannot be a good leader without first being a good disciple, being a good student to the person who's there. And like Jesus was the perfect example of how we learn about leadership, because although in the Bible, although he is God, but he never equaled himself to God. He was that, okay, I am here to do my job, and he was showing the same. And you look at these students of his, some of them were in the beginning not so good, but they learned. And even when he was no longer there, that's when they became even great leaders. And
Correct.
today, especially as young people, for us young people in our world today, the culture has been twisted somehow. There's too much noise nowadays, online, offline.
Correct.
There's you hear everybody nowadays, let's say, can express their narrative of how, let's say, if it's leadership, then everybody, and especially like how we are doing a podcast, so everybody can say their ideas. So I'm curious to know, how can we, in your perspective and through your experience, how can we now align, God's calling, develop that spiritual discernment, know, oh, this is God telling me this, especially in this area of leadership, because as I said in the beginning, sometimes we tend to put a line between leadership and our spiritual being. We feel like in the world you cannot put too much this faith stuff. So how do we hear that, oh, this is God telling me this, and is clearly directing me on how to lead accordingly?
We all say, and remember 9/11, when 9/11 hit the world, so all of a sudden everyone was saying, I love God. Look, 9/11 hit, I love God. God bless America, Now you don't hear it as much.
Yep.
And so therefore, there's people that will follow when they're scared. You call on God when you're scared.
Right.
Then you call, or when you want something. You call on God.
We want God to serve us.
Because you saw grandma do it and everyone else do it. So, okay, I'm going to call this because in the movie another example I'm giving this going into that part is, so this is a good movie of mine that I Eat, Pray, and Love with Julia Roberts. So when she was in her first marriage, first of all, she went on a trip and to Bali, and how that she spoke to this goddess person who knows everything, and he told him that you're going to be in 2 marriages, reading his hand, and you're going to be in 2 marriages, and which one, I don't know. In respect of when she was in that first marriage, she got out of bed because things wasn't right. So she got out of bed and she went and she prayed to God, and she said, God, I know I don't call on you. I don't know how to do this. And that's what we need to do. We need to fall onto God when, like, you in trouble, you confused, good leadership. There is a God, there is Jesus. The role model that was before you, that was Jesus.
Right.
So that earthly vessel. So with that, you also have your parents. If you don't have your parents, you have your grandparents or your adopted parents. Some adopted parents are really good. Or you have someone in church. You have someone that give a good example of what leadership is, right?
Yeah.
My daughter is 30. So she's in leadership roles. She's actually her second job, full-time job. She's in leadership roles at a university. And that comes from being at home and watching as I progress in life. I have my ups and downs, my struggles, but she's watched, and I gave her the example of leadership. So give me that example of leadership. She's doing that. Now, do she hear all the time and listen to God? Sometimes. She's young, kids, she's 30 now, but they sometimes do. But what they do, they will call upon their parents.
Right.
Can you help me with this? Or they will call on some mentor that they had on the road and ask them, can you help me with this situation? And I develop a friendship with those individuals to where they will ask me first, in a sense. Not everything, to keep that soul, that bond
between them,
but let me know that it's okay. And she knows that I don't allow her to be or speak to so many people or get directions for so many people, because I don't want her to be led the wrong way.
Yeah, correct.
And that's in society, that's how it is. You can go to a job, first time at this job, wherever you go, and you can look around. You have eyes. You can feel what leadership is. If a person is a secretary, if they run the whole office, including the boss, you understand the situation.
Right.
So you can see where the leadership falls and pretty much who you need to befriend so you can level up in the company.
Correct.
we listen to a lot of people. And then also another person told me, it was Priscilla Sherrod. Priscilla, I think her name is Sherrod. She's a great speaker, woman of God. And it was an AI about morning worship for her that was going around on Facebook. So a friend of mine said, I love her. However, I was listening to the prayer and that wasn't her, that was an AI. So you have to be that one with God, that prayer warrior that understands that your person's really fervent prayer.
Yeah.
Versus then some false prayer. Not saying nothing was wrong with the prayer, but there's a certain spiritual connection when she prayed that you will receive. If you hear it and you don't feel that connection, that's AI.
I like the fact that you just highlighted like AI, because now Google was somehow, let's say it was somehow dumb. Sorry, Google. But I mean, now AI has brought, whenever I have a question, it doesn't matter how difficult it is to me, there's something that can give me an answer. And so maybe we might end up shifting God for, this AI. And I think it's wise to be able to remind ourselves that the essence, the connection between you and God is like irreplaceable. Like the advice from God, the insights, that verse that says, just listen, it will be a very gentle voice that will tell you something. Then you have to listen to that voice. You have to follow that. AI might give us directions and all that, but thank you very much. And I'm curious now, when we are talking about all this noise, and as we discover that sometimes leadership and spirituality or faith can somehow clash, because sometimes the interest on when you're, let's say, leadership in terms of politics, right? There's something that you have to compromise and all that. And so I'm thinking that since you're active in both ministry and union leadership, can you share with us, how do you balance your spiritual sensitivity with professional demands, especially in difficult environments?
I don't change. I'm with God. That's the main one. There's a lot of stuff was going on about, and in the politics, since you mentioned it up, there's a lot of things going on about our president and about the Medicaid situation. It was $80 billion on the table. And it's a Medicaid, which affects the people who are disabled and the elderly people. And so a lot of people, they get to, they use all sorts of profanity, whatever it may be, and try to say this and that. But they fail to realize, and I always go to them, I say, you know what? I don't know why you're rumping and raving. I said, God is still in control. I am putting my word out vocally to everyone. God is in control. God is the one. That's the king. That's the only one that can make anything change. He can shut them down right now.
Right now,
he can shut anybody down right now that's doing wrong. Then everything that's going on is in the Bible anyway. So read your Bible. And I always say, I don't want to get so, as they quote unquote want to say, religious on you, but I'm going to speak to you how I relate to the situation and how I get through, because I know my God is a good God and he's not going to let me fail. He's going to always come
through for me.
I'm not worried. So I go and I do my round because, yes, we need to voice our opinion. We have an opinion. We can voice our opinion in rallies, and I don't mind doing that. However, I'm still going to say God is in control at the end of the day. I don't allow politics, and I've been in politics in different areas. I didn't mention everything I did in the past, but it's not politics. It's my God that I serve. So I don't allow people to tell me what to do things, Do I dummy down? No. I put things around my desk that knows that I am a Christian.
Right.
I also, I put things around my desk. I did all things. So I walk with my head held up high. I'm not going to change this because you want me to change, because I'm in a political role, leadership. When I was a Democrat Women Caucus chairperson, I did what God is. The first speaker I had when I had to do a Women Caucus, I invited a friend of mine who was apostle, she was apostle, and she actually was actually my guest speaker. And because they said we couldn't do so much of we couldn't talk about God so much because Asia, but she did it so well and eloquent, and it was all, God was all in there. So you had to know the word in order to know how she brought it.
That's nice. I love that you highlight that sometimes it's not like we won't face, as it says, we won't face persecution and all that, and
Right.
there will always be roadblocks, but doesn't mean that our confidence should go down, especially as a leader and as a believer. I think it's important that we're able to, you're telling us we're able to continuously carry that banner, like, this is me, but these are the principles that I work with. Yeah. And now to add on to that is, I have seen that you have written multiple books, and each of these books, they are layered with some sort of direction towards purpose, right?
Yes.
And so I'm curious to know your role as a caregiver and as a mother, as you have already highlighted. How do these roles influence your writing and your message of godly leadership?
Family is all throughout my book. All my books is going to start with my family.
Yeah.
And in my preaching, I was told that if the Lord don't speak to me, and don't move me, how can it move the next person?
Correct.
So in my books, I write from my heart of what have moved me and helped me, and hope that it will also help someone else. And that's why the books go out to that way, and that's how I write. I write self-help books because we all need help in different areas.
Right.
And so therefore, most of my people that purchased my book when I was overseas, I did a whole lot. I was actually, when I first became an author, I was scheduled to go live in China, so I really couldn't do too much, in America. So I did a lot over there. So it was awesome. So now I'm coming back home, and being home is a difference. So I'm just trying to build that network back up again, and to tell people about of what each book is. The individuals, like aspects, what they don't tell you, is telling people about my experience living over in China, the things that they don't tell you, everything before going over there. So these are things that I learned. So I wrote a book about that will help someone, guide them along the process. And in fact, I have a speaking engagement to some young juniors and seniors on the 15th of this month, telling them about, going abroad to actually get their college degree. A lot of us don't think about going abroad, and why? No, you can go abroad. If you can go to another state, you can also go to another country, and actually cheaper sometimes because of the scholarships that they offer.
Right.
So that's helping individual and young people. Then also have, when I did the Nation to Nation Entrepreneurs Making Bold Moves, I made a bold move myself. I left everyone behind, and I left and went over to China, not knowing about doing my business or whatever, but God provided me with an international business, as well as my job and being in ministry at church. So it was a lot that was there, and I connected with other like-minded entrepreneurs in different countries, as well as in the United States. So that book is about how they got started. And once again, I gave myself first, and then I also allow other people to tell their story. The other book, the journal, 40, Write the Vision, a 40-day journey journal. All these books is getting on my mind. However, that book was when God spoke to me. I was actually on lunch, and I was walking, doing my little minutes in my hand, and God spoke to me, and I'm like looking around, anybody here? It was like, that was really my first, really. And I was like, he's, write this journal, and all of a sudden give me scriptures and stuff. And I was like, okay, so I'm being obedient, because then I realized it wasn't one around. It was just God calling, speaking to me. So I went home that night and started writing the journal. I stopped what I was doing on who are you listening to, develop a leader in you, and I start doing the journal. So they actually go hand in hand, because you have to listen to God. You got to write the vision that he gave you. So That book is another roadmap of listening to God and telling everyone that you listen to his voice and you write down what he says. I listened to what he told me and I wrote the book.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charisse. It's awesome to learn that every book is practical to your life, to your immediate, especially environment. And you just want to share these stories with people so that they're able also to, get a grasp of what happens around them, because that's the essence. If it happens to me, then probably it is happening to you, but maybe you just don't have a clue.